goodness of the land. We had one responsibility: to take care of this land and pass it on to the next generation. And yet, what have we done with it? This is the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve in the heart of the western region of this beautiful land of Ghana. This is what betrayal looks like. This is what a Quantum Mining Company has done to the Nimri Forest Reserve. What should have been here should have been trees, ancient trees, older than our grandparents, trees that whispered our history, trees that held rains and fed our rivers. Now, they are just corpses in a graveyard. This is the Tano River, which once gave life to the people of Samaraboy and its environs. Children swam here, women cooked with it, farmers watered their crops with it and drank from it. The fufu and palm nut soup we so enjoy was birthed here.
It shall be the policy of this government to ban
Geological map of Ghana. We've been so blessed that everywhere you pass in Ghana, there's gold and other mineral resources. As you can see, this is licenses, large-scale, small-scale, issued within these periods. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana was named the Gold Coast by the colonial masters for very good reasons. Everywhere you pass, there's gold. And so mining dates back from the 1400s. And Ghana today, even after all these long years of mining, is the largest gold producer who surpassed South Africa in Africa. Sixth in the world. Almost 5 of the largest gold producers in the world are here in Ghana. But this is the story. It used to be the large-scale companies were the ones that were producing more gold. Today, I can tell you, small-scale mining is the largest gold producers in Ghana. 52% of the gold in Ghana are produced by small-scale mining as opposed to 48% for large-scale companies. Large-scale mining is a preserve for all Ghanaians. And the latest data we have is that 3 million Ghanaians are engaged legally in this activity in almost 10 regions in the country today. Small-scale mining, as you know, started with rudimentary tools, chisels, hammers, but that's not the same today. It has really moved to this period where we are now evolving to a new, complicated, sophisticated use of excavators to strip the land. And the data is clear. In 2024, the importation of excavators was the largest item of value that was brought into Ghana, 6.5 billion Ghana cedi. This is the first report, and you can imagine when you walk into an office and the first briefing you are getting, this is what you are told. Minister, welcome. But we are very sad to tell you that 44 of the 288 forest reserves that have been kept for years have been completely destroyed, almost 16%. Minister, it doesn't stop there. 9 of those forest reserves we've lost it to armed thugs. And if you see the classification of the Forestry Commission, they've classified those 9 zones as red zones. That is, Forestry Commission guards cannot enter. The Ghana Army had not been able to enter. In fact, between 2023-2024, the Ghana Army was directed not to enter any forest reserve. And so it was free for all that period. What were the consequences? 5,500 hectares for our pristine forest reserve had been completely destroyed. You saw some of the pictures. If you want to imagine it, that's equivalent to 7,500 football fields. Think about the implication of restoring this and how much billions you need to restore it. And these are the impacted areas in Ashanti, Bekwai, Nkawie, Mankraso, Western Takwa, Dabuasi. So these 3 regions really are the main areas that has been impacted. I've already talked about the classification. If you had done it in color form, you have seen that the top one is no go. The second one, which is like gold, is an area that is close to the first one. 18 is medium, you can manage, so they go in, they clear them out, they come back. And then the 5th one is the green zone, where basically we can control. This is what we came to meet. This is the deepest we were sunk. And so I've talked about the red zone, and these were the 9 no-go areas. Chemra, Afao Hills, Tano Anya. If you saw that the National Anti-Illegal Mining had gone back to the shelter belt, it meant that the same talks are trying to take it back from us. We were immediate, we were swift, we were brutal. This is the extent of focus. Ladies and gentlemen, a view of our forest region, how damaged it is. Let's move from the forest to the water bodies. It even gets worse. We have 3 water systems in Ghana: the Volta, Southwestern, and the coastal basins. The Southwestern is the most impacted, especially rivers like Ankobra, Prata, and Abia. And it gets worse. Constant importation of champagne machines, digging deep and polluting the water with dangerous chemicals has been the story. And the implications were serious. The turbidity levels that were supposed to be 0 to 500 had moved from 5,000 to 12,000. Impossible for water companies to treat water. And so if you hear the stories of Ghana Water Company shutting down, it started in Takwa. And so when you are in Winneba, you think Takwa was too far. Well, you got into Takwa, he's got into the eastern region, and he's probably coming to you. The impact didn't stop there. The incidence of renal diseases, bird defects, impact on agriculture and food production and our cocoa production. It's all well known. And I think these are the impact, and it's very, very clear. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, law enforcement was weak. Slow investigation. This data should tell you that in 2024, 2023, total arrests, 35 prosecution. Should give you a picture, 4%. I think that we'll talk deeply about identifying the root causes. Why are we here? Of how we survive. There was also clearly weak enforcement of mining regulation. The real problem was also with the regulators, the Minerals Commission and the EPA. I must be the first to say it. It was very clear how we issue licenses was even discouraging people in mining areas and poor people from going through this queue. It was pointless. Unemployment, poverty, and limited access to opportunity were clear factors as well. It got worse. corruption among political officials and law enforcement agencies who were supposed to lead the effort were all complicit, clearly. And then it was not even helped by the price of gold that kept going up. So it became clear that if I'm a teacher and I can easily make some bucks illegally, enforcement is not there, all I have to do is do it and then just pay some bribe. So it was free for all. This is when we came in. January 2027. You even remember the short period of time, how many licenses were rushed and given out. It was not even enough. This is the directive of President Mahama. You are going to do everything possible to bring this problem under control. So we began the 5 pillars, 5-pronged approach to talk about where we are, the crisis we face. We began with stakeholder education and engagement, because ultimately this fight will not be won by guns. It will be won by the heart and soul of every Ghanaian. We began collaboration and education and engagement with the powerful, the connected, the most powerful people. We started with Parliament. We went to Chiefs, House of Chiefs. We've been everywhere, educating them to use their voices and their positions to help in addressing the crisis we face. Key stakeholders engagement across the country. A long list of everybody that matters in Ghana has been engaged within this short period of time. The second is what I talked about. We must completely, overhaul our regulatory regime. And we began by revoking those licenses that were given within that transitional period. And then embark on an aggressive process to review the large scale, small scale. We just finished earlier the small scale mining review. You will be shocked. Processes that should be followed were not followed. It was obvious that you have to be politically connected to get a license. It was very, very clear that if you do not have a political godfather, it will take you years to get a license. It was clear that the MCAS system that should allow everybody in the comfort of his room to see what is going on in the Minerals Commission was not happening. We initially came out with 907 licenses that had problems. But we didn't want to simply revoke the licenses. We gave opportunity to the small-scale miners to come in and show what they have. We've done the complete due diligence, and let me thank the chairman of the review, my able deputy minister, for this effort. I can tell you that the review is almost closed. At least, I'm sure, by next week when we announce it, at least 250 licenses will be revoked. I'm very sure about that one. It is very clear that we need to also review and amend the main Mining Act, Act 703. A lot of provisions there must be tweaked and strengthened. And why is it that those in Accra can just decide, because you are my friend, just get a license? You don't even know Elembele. You can just walk in there, wave your licenses at the chiefs and the local people and tell them that I am coming to take the gold underground, your cocoa, and you have no power. This review includes reforming it and creating, empowering our chiefs and communities in the district areas where the gold is. We are going to form district mining committees to make sure that the recommendation for licenses will first and foremost come from the district, the owners of the resource. We are also going to create avenues for not only medium scale, but small scale, but medium scale. What has happened? Small scale mining is 25 acres. So I go through all this hustle and I get 25 acres. When I finish mining it, I have to go through this lengthy, crazy program. Now I won't go to Accra again. All I have to do is just continue the illegality. How do we create the opportunity for those who have done the right thing to be given medium scale and large scale? As the president has announced, we have been, as Ghanaians, at the back of the bus. We've been in the middle in the mining industry for over 100 years. We think that Ghanaians have reached the point where they can have the commanding heights of the mining sector, as Nkrumah will describe. And when you see the president making the case that when we give you a 30-year mining lease, it is not automatic that it's going to just be given. And that we are going to now move in that direction to empower Ghanaians. This is what the president meant. And so we are doing a lot. I'm very happy to tell you that within this 9 months, we've visited every region, we've met every House of Chiefs, we've met the National House of Chiefs. We are almost 90% complete with the reform of the law and the policy, and I believe next year all these amendments will be in place.
This is how established by your government to ensure that there is a unified approach to the fight against illegal mining. And therefore, NIMOS is leading the charge to effect the arrest and send them for prosecution. We also ensure that environmental laws are strictly adhered to at NIMOS. Of course, the local authorities, especially the chiefs, are part of this fight and therefore collaborate very well with them and all state institutions. So NIMOS, in brief, is a coordinated approach, well integrated with all institutions and organizations and individuals who are involved in the fight, so that we have a unified approach to the fight against illegal mining. Who is in NIMOS? As I said, it is an all-encompassing and integrated approach are good at doing, clearing the illegal miners from the space. This is enforced with technology, the use of drones and surveillance. Aside that, the addition we are bringing on board is the non-kinetic one, which is the soft approach. So for instance, we are leveraging on the knowledge of the chiefs because they are the owners of the communities and they know. So aside what government is doing, we are also, as NIMOS, engaging the chiefs. We go to the communities and sensitize them on the harmful effects of the illegal mining and the fact that they know these illegal miners. They should give us information when they come on the ground to perform the illegal mining activities. We also work with the security on the ground. So NIMOS doesn't work alone. We have already existing military units, police stations, the national security infrastructure, whom we work with, so that the fight will be a more unified one. Of course, I mentioned technology, which plays a key role in the fight against illegal mining. Now, tracing to the big fishes is one area we take very important. Many a times you go to the site, you see these young boys who are desperate for a little bit of money to take care of themselves. We say that we should dig and look inside the veil, behind the veil, who are those there? And that is where the Honorable Attorney General is helping us so much. So we trace, investigate, and question, and find out who are the real people behind the financiers, because they are the ones that can lead to deepen the calamity. They are the first or prime enemies of the state, and they will be dealt with as such. There will be no room for them to escape or to hide. NIMOS will smoke them out very soon. There's no resting place for them. They should get ready and be assured that very soon our waters will turn blue and our forests will turn green. We have already trained over 400 troops who are the first batch deployed or under deployment to sensitive areas. We'll continue to deploy more so that we will all go to bed knowing that NIMOS is firmly on the ground and illegal mining will be a thing of the past. So all illegal miners, galamseyers, their financiers and assigns, beware. NIMOS is closer to your bases, and there will be no hiding place for you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has underscored the fact that legal and regulatory reform is at the heart of what we are doing in order to change the narrative about illegal mining. So one of the things we have done is to review the Minerals and Mining Act. And I have advised the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources that the current state of the law is such that licenses and leases can be granted over the whole territory of the Republic of Ghana. That includes forests, that includes the territorial waters and the exclusive economic zone. So the first thing to do is for us to streamline the Minerals and Mining Act. And for instance, in respect of mining in forest reserves, we will put a provision in the statute, in the bill, when enacted, that will prohibit mining in forest reserves completely. And I have told the minister that one of the things we can do is to identify all the forest reserves and put them in a schedule attached to the bill and make it categorically clear that no license for mining activity or lease for the conduct of mining can be granted in respect of all the forest reserves attached to the statute. Now that means that at any point in time that the law, the position has to change, they have to go back to Parliament and then review the law, which makes it politically more difficult. Also, we have prepared an instrument that is LI 2505 in my office, and that will be laid in Parliament on the 14th. The minister and I have agreed that on the 14th of October, when Parliament resumes, we'll lay that instrument to revoke the famous LI 2462, which is the infamous LI 2462, so that there will be no basis whatsoever for anybody to tamper with, with our forest. So immediately it is laid, within 21 days, it matures, and from that time onwards, we will not have LI 2462. Now, in terms of prosecutions, the statistics that were given included 1,400 arrests. 1,400 arrests. Now, the biggest problem we've had with the arrests is the 48 hours rule. Constitutional principle that we must bring them before the courts within 48 hours. Most of the judges have been granting them bail. So I remember the point that was made by Colonel Boa. When we arrested 9 people in Kumasi, he called me and I told him that immediately place them before the court and then ask for them to be detained so that we do our investigation. When they appeared before the court, Your Excellency, they were granted bail. Okay? Then they went back. He was very good in monitoring them. They went back into the forest. So I told him that even despite the fact that they've been granted bail, because they have gone back into the forest, they've committed a new offense. I asked him to arrest them, but to bring them to Accra, instead of placing them before a court in Kumasi. And I'm dealing with them now. They are in detention. We will not release them. We will make sure that even if the High Court says we should grant them bail, we'll go to Court of Appeal and go to the Supreme Court to ensure that we hold them until the dockets are prepared and then we send them to court. Currently, we have initiated prosecutions in 65 dockets. And Mr. President, there's a difference. When we say 65 dockets, it is not 65 individual persons who are being prosecuted. Some of them are more than 10. In fact, there is one case in the Western North. There are 28 minors that are involved in that prosecution. So the 65 dockets, by my calculation, contains about 600 persons that are illegal minors that are being prosecuted. And I'm happy to announce that in 2002, the police conducted very diligent investigations in respect of Akonta mining. But the docket was hidden until we came to power. In fact, when we came to power and I started the investigation with the the Lands and Natural Resources Minister and the Forestry Commission, we were finding it difficult to get information. Subsequently, the police themselves owned up and presented the docket to my office 2 months ago. So as we speak, the charges against Chairman Wuntumi, Akonta Mining, and 5 others have been signed as I speak. Currently, we are waiting for him to be read his right to remain silent, etc. Before we've asked that he should be brought from, Kumasi. His lawyers asked that he should be brought on Tuesday, but I'm insisting that he should be here on Monday. If he doesn't come on Monday, I'm going to order for his arrest so that he'll be brought to Accra. His rights will be read to him, and then we can start the prosecution. We have also put in place certain measures to ensure that the prosecution goes faster than normal. We have approached the Chief Justice, who has agreed to assign specialized courts for the prosecution of illegal mining cases. And I have laid before Cabinet, on Tuesday, Cabinet will meet and approve the Public Tribunals Bill, which will go to Parliament on a certificate of agency. And if by December the tribunals are in place, most of the circuit tribunals will be given exclusive jurisdiction to deal with mining cases. And we will appoint the chairman and panel members of the tribunals, give them timelines beyond which they should not carry a case. So, for instance, we will insist that every mining case should end within 6 months. If there are reasons for you to appeal, that is fine. But the tribunal must deliver its verdict within 6 months. Currently, we don't have those statutory timelines in CI 47, that is the High Court Civil Procedure Rules. So I want Parliament to help me to put those timelines in the tribunals bill so that the tribunals will do the cases very fast. So, Mr. President, this is where we are in terms of the legal steps. And as I said, law enforcement, regulatory reform is at the heart of what we are doing. And we will not spare any person, in terms of the accountability for their destruction of the environment. Thank you very much.
Nephelometric turbidity unit. And nephelometry is simply how light is scattered or penetrates a water body. So if you point a light to a water body, it will present whether it is scattered or it is penetrated. What comes back, you measure it, and that gives you the level of turbidity. So if you look at the rivers, at Shofiwi also, on the River Tano, on average for the year 2024, it was 139. When we monitored it for this year, if you take the average, it came down to 14, and that was an 89% improvement. At Berekese, it was 22 in 2024, and then 11. That's about a 50%. At Dominasi, on the River Cobra, where NIMOS has operated extensively, it was 2,870. It has come down to 1,927. On the Densu River at Manguasi, when we monitored it, the average for 2024 was 129. It has come down to 34 for 2025. That's about 73% improvement. And then the Tano also, on the River Tano, it was 10, and when we measured this year, average was 9. That's about 10%. Then at Ampasia, close to the Honorable Minister's constituency, it was 1,500, and it's now 520. That's about 65% improvement. We would like to employ on NIMO to spread, because there are other places where we've had elevated turbidity. And so we will call on NIMOS to be able to spread their activities to those places, especially in the Eastern region, Central, so that at least we can also get rid of the illegal miners polluting our water bodies. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
To pay attention to the import of excavators. Within 1 month, we had seized 1,200 excavators, and there was no space at the Tema Port. So we had to have a meeting to decide between the Minister of Transport, Finance, and my ministry, what we can do to decongest. We were lucky to get the military to give us a place, and that is where most of those excavators were lifted. And what happened? You couldn't move these excavators and add on to the traffic. So it was decided that we should move them when the traffic were gone. And so that is really the story of those movement of excavators. I can tell you now that as we speak, that we have DVLA office stationed at Tema Port working closely with the Minerals Commission. What are they doing? Every excavator before you even import it, the new inspection regime, the new review is that you have to be approved to import excavator. Thanks to the collaboration with the Minister of Transport, the Minister of Finance, myself, we collectively have to approve it. If you say you are coming to import excavator for mining, the Minerals Commission will bring me a letter and then will be approved. If you say you want to do quarry or you are in construction, the appropriate ministry will give us. That's when the Minister of Transport can now authorize the import. We still have thousands of excavators sitting there. Everybody is now waiting. I don't know why they are delaying, but those who have imported it are supposed to bring their legal licenses to claim it. And it's very clear, we've created a process. If indeed you are bringing it for construction, a legitimate company or a quarry business, you have a contract, you are doing it, we'll readily release those excavators for that work. But oftentimes those that are questionable are still there. We are deciding on a timeline within a period where we don't find the owners, we will confiscate all that to the state. But that regime is very important. What we are doing, what Minerals Commission is also doing is that not only registering the excavators at the DVLA, we are also tracking them. And if you look at some of the numbers we have so far, we have basically registered, DVLA has registered 1,181, and we have tracked 724 of them, which means that if you tell me you are taking those excavators to Takwa, we'll track it and make sure that when you go anywhere and it's not Takwa, you have a problem. We have a control room that is monitoring all these excavators in the system. And then we geofence it as well. You say you are going to mine in Takwa, we know the perimeter of that mining area. You have to send it and operate within that perimeter. Anytime it goes outside the geofence area, that excavator will be disabled. And so those systems will be tightened as we go forward. And ultimately the plan is to make sure every excavator in this country is tracked and geofenced. Yes, I'm winding up.
I understand when he says that we are on a forward march, because I feel like we are not doing enough. Because last year we even had a lot of cholera cases. This is all as a result of Galamsey. We have malaria cases as well.
All right.
And we are tired of seeing these things in our hospitals, bed
All right,
defects and
so
all
Dr.
that.
Luma will
Thank you.
answer that.
We believe that there's some political will that you've demonstrated. The minister is working. But the elephant in the room was not mentioned. You heard the Attorney General talk only about Akonta mine. The Attorney General has referred some politically exposed persons to the Iyoko. We've not heard anything about that. There are some politically exposed persons that we, the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, have petitioned you about. We've not heard anything about that. There are some chiefs that are complicit in it. So let me read just a short bit of what our ask is. Our ask is that given the unprecedented crisis and the fact that our demands are clear, we ask you, His Excellency, to clearly tell us in granular definition, your granular definition of success in the fight against Galamsey. Also share with us very definitive roadmap that would include key milestones and timelines and how we are going to get there. We believe that the work that has been done by EPA and all about the level of heavy metals in our water bodies, the turbidity that have gone above 98,000 NTUs, and my brother, the scientist, that report he shared with us, unfortunately, for all of us who are scientists, we know that this is not how you measure water quality. We know that that's not how you do it. You need to deal with the seasonalities. You need to deal with what the water quality index is, what you should be sharing with us and telling us what is it that we've been consuming as a people. And all of us, our lives are at risk. Our lives are at very risk. So we ask that His Excellency, you also tell us what benchmark would compel you to invoke the state of emergency, which you term is your last resort. We believe that the state of emergency is critical to carrying out some of the things that the minister has spoken about, to deal with the ecocidal genocide that is being perpetuated against all of us as Ghanaians. We also ask that the fast-track court that is being mentioned, timelines be put to them, and then the key things be also mentioned. What are the key performance indicators that have been given to our MCs, DCs, police commanders in areas where Galamsey is still going on? And what are the consequences for failure? Because we see a lot of them failing, but nothing is happening to them. We also ask that the chiefs, that some of them that are doing good work, and there are examples of them, Mampong, Gemma, and there's a community where they have a water body called...
Dr. Shigbe, not to rush you, because of time, I would kindly ask that you wrap up so that...
Okay, I would wrap up.
Yeah.
So our quest is that the chiefs, anywhere that Galamsey is going on, the chiefs are either acquiescing or they know something about it. Those lands be confiscated and the chiefs be investigated for complicity. There are also some communities that are currently fighting Galamsey. The AG at Ronso, for example, the AG should discontinue those cases against the community members who are fighting this on our behalf. And then finally, the last one is the issues around accountability measures. Ghana Water Research should be publishing the quality index of water that is coming to all the treatment plants. The president should also commission a group to be doing food quality tests and publishing that to all of us so that we are sure that we are not consuming poison. And we will submit this document to His Excellency. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Against the sovereignty of Ghana and her citizens. They are not fighting us with missiles. They are not bombarding us with bombs. But they are fighting us, including generations unborn, with mercury, cyanide, arsenic, lead, and what have you. Where we have gotten to now, we have to make a decisive decision whether we are going to tolerate what is going on at the moment or we are going to take a frantic action to arrest the menace of Galamsey. And I'm going to appeal to the president that he must do what the president of Ghana must do. He must do what the president of Ghana must do, which is, Mr. President, declare a state of emergency. Mr. President, only you have the power to declare a state of emergency. And therefore, please, do it. Professor Osai Sampeni, just last week.
You've made your appeal. In the interest of time, let us move to...
No, 2 more minutes.
No. I'm afraid I cannot afford that. So the Reverend Minister in front here will have...
Is whether this will not be another avenue for corrupting the system at the local level and even granting these opportunities more frequently than what we see now. In terms of the vehicles, the machinery that are being confiscated, I humbly would want to request for very transparent accountability in the interest of government so that naysayers will not pick it up and talk about missing excavators and chamfer machines. And so I want to request for transparency. My third question is whether we can have regular weekly updates. I mean, the concern for state of emergency being declared is coming from an apprehension of what is being done. And so if, like we are hearing...
C, environmental recovery and public health. D, livelihoods and economic alternatives. E, institutional transparency and political accountability. And last but not least, the strategic intelligence and security. Within this framework, I would wish to borrow from the strategic thought of the Chinese General Sun Tzu, that the best general is the one who wins a war without firing any shot. Our position as CDT is that at this material time, it is a bit premature to declare a state of emergency because it entails political, socio-economic, and other security risks. So therefore, our main point within this 6-point framework is to identify the center of gravity of Galamsey. And that center of gravity is the use of industrial machinery. So therefore, the main effort, and I'm speaking in terms of military strategy, the main effort of the state, the government, against that center of gravity will be to eliminate the use of machinery, heavy machinery. If we can do this in timelines, we would have reverted the issue of illegal mining to the days of Don Diego de Azambuja, when we were basically mining gold with basic implements. Once we do that, all other things will fall in line. But as I've said, our policy brief outlines the details of how we could go about this.
All right.
Once again, I thank you.
Thank you very much. As I indicated,
hold this dialogue to update you on the progress that we're making in the fight against illegal mining. Mining in Ghana has been historical, and when the first Portuguese arrived in Elmina, one of the first things we sold to them was gold, and that's why they built a fort in Elmina. Our grandfathers were involved in mining. The problem with the difference between then and now is that they use rudimentary tools to undertake the mining. And so the capacity to create destruction to the environment was very limited. The whole equation changed when the small-scale mining sector started deploying heavy earth-moving equipment. Before, it was only the big-scale mining sector that was involved in using excavators and bulldozers and huge dump trucks. At a point in time, the small-scale mining sector, which is a legal sector of our mining, it was passed in PNDC time to allow, because we realized that the big mining companies were owned by foreign companies, and Ghanaian small-scale companies that had the capacity to mine were prevented from doing so. And so the mining code was revised to add for small-scale miners. And as I said, there's a difference between small-scale mining and artisanal mining. Artisanal mining was what existed before, using pickaxes and shovels and so on and so forth. But when the new licenses for small-scale mining started, and they could afford to bring in excavators and bulldozers and others, it meant that their ability to destroy the environment was expanded. And that is where we currently have our problem. I want to assure you that we are determined to win this fight. And your contributions, your criticisms, your pressure, putting fire under our feet does not have any problem. We don't have any problem with that. You must continue to do your advocacy, to urge us on, to encourage us to win the fight. As I said in the last media encounter, I said that I had no illusions that within 7 months I was going to win the fight against Galamsey. And I said that it wasn't going to be an event, it was going to be a process. Mistakes have been made. In the first effort we made, we go into a forest reserve. We mapped out the forest reserves that had been that had incursions of illegal miners. And we deployed the first wave of our security services. They scored a lot of successes. In a short time, they had cleared some of the major forest reserves that were called no-go areas. Unfortunately, after we cleared the illegal miners from there, the security services withdrew and handed over the forest reserve to the Forestry Commission. And so they put their forest guards there. The forest guards don't have the capacity to defend the reserves against the illegal miners. And so lessons learned were that in the next wave, with the formation of NIMOS, that we must deploy the military on a sustained basis, rather than when we make some wins, we withdraw them. But it comes with a cost, because if you send troops and station them permanently to guard the forest reserves, we must feed them, we must provide them with fuel, we must give them vehicles and all the logistics they need to be able to do that. And so that links up with Franklin's question about budget. We need a substantially bigger budget than we have currently to be able to win this war. Happily, budget hearings have started. The budget for next year is going to be presented to Parliament. And my expectation is that the Minister of Finance will give a much bigger allocation to this fight against Galamsey. We also need enough troops. Our troops are stretched. We have so many chieftaincy disputes all over the country, land disputes. And so you go to Sampa, we have troops there. You go to Gonjaland, Savannah, there are troops there. You go to Boko, there are troops there. You go to Nkwanta, our troops are there. And then our troops are also on the border to protect us from terrorism. And so they are spread thin. If we take another batch of them and go and put them in the forest, it means that we are committing most of our troops to other things other than crime prevention and keeping us safe. And so that's why NIMOS is a combination of the police and the army. So all of them contribute troops. And then we also have national security also contributing and all the other agencies. But happily, we have some additional troops coming with the winding down of some of the peacekeeping theaters. And so when they come, as many of them as possible, we'll add them to the force so that we're able to dominate all the anti-Galamsey sites and be able to win the battle. As he said, we have targeted 7 major zones in the regions, and the army have come up with a proper strategy. NIMOS has come up with a proper strategy for engaging the illegal miners and making sure that we clear them from especially the forest reserves and the water bodies. One of the important successes is the change in the whole issue of excavators. Excavators came in huge quantities, and I remember that at a point under the previous administration, they asked that permits be gotten before excavators are imported. Meanwhile, the law did not say you should get a permit after, but that was what we came to meet, that you bring the excavator, then you go to the Ministry of Transport and ask for a permit. But the law actually says that you must get a permit before you import the excavator. And so now we're enforcing that law. And so you can't bring an excavator in, you can't put it on a ship, and we're telling the shipping agencies, if you bring an excavator for which there's no permit, we shall penalize you, the shipping agency, for carrying that excavator here to Ghana. In the meantime, we came to meet a huge quantity of excavators in the port. And that is what the lands minister was explaining to you, that we had to decongest the ports because there was no more space for anything. And so we've moved them to the military space at the Shire Hills and other locations, and we've corralled them there. One of the successes too is the registration of excavators. Even though the law requires excavators to be registered, nobody was registering their excavator. And so if you look at the DVLA records, there was no registration of excavators. And so anybody could bring in an excavator and take it straight into the forest. Today, we are requiring that every excavator must be registered with the owner of the excavator known. And once that is done, like he said, we've started putting trackers on the excavators so that we know exactly where they are going to. It's not only illegal miners who use excavators, contractors working on our roads, quarries, and others all use excavators. And so it's impossible to just put a complete ban on excavators, but we must know where that excavator is going. If it's a construction company, they register it in their name. If they have a project and they're using it there, we know that that excavator is being used for construction purposes. And so we now can hold the owners of excavators responsible if we find the excavator in a forest reserve or engaged in illegal mining. And so that's one of the advances that we have made. We've started a geofencing policy where it makes it possible for us to know where every excavator is, so that if the excavator moves after where it was geofenced, then we can go and find out where did this excavator go and what is it doing where it has gone. And so that would help us. With regards to turbidity of the water, as the scientist said, it's just about, you can see physically with your eyes, you know, what the turbidity of the water is. The thicker brown it is, the more coffee-like it is, the more polluted it is. The less it is, the less polluted it is. And so, like he said, we are scoring a few successes, especially on the Ankobra. I believe the minister chose the Ankobra to start because it flows through his constituency. And so there are some successes, but like he said, we still have the Pra, we have the Densu, we have the Birim, you know, we have the Ofin and all of them. But that means that we must get more manpower. The Blue Water Guards have started work, and a lot of them are deployed on the Ankobra River. So far, we've recruited 1,000 of them. We pay them an allowance of, if you take away deductions and other taxes, of about 1,500 cedis a month. And so if we have 1,000 of them, and we pay about 1,500 a month, it means for a year, you're talking about roughly 18 million cedis. And that's for 1,000 of them. And so if we scale up, then it means that we need more money to employ more of them. But I endorse it because it gives them an alternative source of income. Because as they are fighting the pollution of our water bodies, they are also earning an income as a kind of alternative livelihood. And so that is something that we'll have to scale up. And so the Minister of Finance in doing the budget must make extra provision. We also have to start reclamation, because it's not enough to just stop them and drive them away and leave the land scarred the way it is. And so there are a few companies that have worked with the United Nations, and they have come up with some trees that help to regenerate the soil and can also take out toxins from the soil. If you've heard about the Green Sahelian Wall that the United Nations was sponsoring, some of the companies involved there have also come and tried those crops in areas that we want to reclaim. And they say that the tests are positive and they can work with us. But of course, we need to use these bulldozers and things we have recovered to level out the land before these vegetative, organisms are put in the land to be able to reclaim the land. So reclamation is one of the areas that we must look to. Happily, we should be able to get some support from green climate funds and a lot of these green funds to assist us in reclamation. But we must put our resources in first. The menace of illegal mining, and I've been trying to find out about best practice, and I found out that apparently we're not the only ones suffering. The high gold price is pushing a lot of people into gold, especially gold mining. So if you go to Peru, you go to Chile, you go to Zambia, you go to South Africa. South Africa, there are even some old pits that people have gone into, And there's violence, people have died, all kinds of things are happening. So we might not be the only persons, but there are success stories we can learn from. Because if you look at Chile, for instance, they've been able to formalize 90% of their small-scale gold mining. It means 90%, they were in the same situation as us. But today, 90% of their small-scale mining is formalized. And they have control of it. They inspect, they make sure that they're doing the right thing. We can also achieve that. And so even though we're not alone facing that menace, I believe that we can use the best practices of Chile and others to also formalize our small-scale mining sector and make sure that we're able to take control of it. And that is part of what we tried to do when our colleagues died in the helicopter crash. We contacted the big mining companies. Some of them have concessions like 200 miles square. And they are not going to mine all of that concession today or tomorrow. There are some of the places they've explored and found out the gold content is so low that it's not really profitable for them to start mining. But for a small-scale mining company, because of their lower costs, they can mine it effectively. But they must do it responsibly. And so together with the big companies, we said, okay, let's start this cooperative mining, seed part of your concession, so that we can move the small-scale miners from where they are causing distraction onto your concessions. And then you can help us to monitor them and make sure that they are doing the right things. So that was what we were going to launch in Obuasi when the tragic accident happened. The first was Anglo Gold. Anglo Gold agreed, and they carved out a part of the concession. I'm happy to know that since then, Newmont have come on board and are going to assist with the cooperative mining. And some of the other bigger companies have agreed that they will carve out part of their concession so that we can move these illegal small-scale miners onto those places. And so we'll continue to do that. We also have the issue of geology and geological exploration. Currently, our mineral prospects have not been explored adequately. Happily, there's new technology generated by AI that allows those with the technology to partner with our geological survey department. And what they do is they shoot seismic from satellites, and they're able to map out exactly where a mineral prospect is. Currently, when our small-scale miners get a concession, they go and dig this place. There's not enough gold there. They leave it. They go and dig there. There's not enough gold. They leave it. They come and dig here. There's not enough gold. They dig here until they find something. By the time they find something and they're mining, they've dug all over the concession. Today, it's possible to precisely map out where the mineral prospect is. And that's part of what Gold Board is trying to do. That is their other responsibility. That is to give geological survey money together with their partners to shoot the seismic for Ghana and show where exactly the resources are. And based on that, do PPPs with Ghanaian mining companies that will mine that gold responsibly so that they don't go around just digging everywhere. So that's one of the things that Gold Board is going to introduce. And this fits into their track and trace system, which they are going to launch, because we cannot export gold to the European countries because of LBMA restrictions. And yet, if we introduce a track and trace system, we should not only be able to export to the Asian countries and the Middle East, we should be able to, once the gold has been tracked and it's known to have come from responsible sources, then we can export it into the LBMA countries. And that allows us to get a much higher price, for our gold than we currently have. And so Gold Board has to activate that other aspect. Aside from that, we're looking at best practices for small-scale mining, because small-scale mining is not restricted only to Africa or to Ghana. It is done even in the advanced countries. And so there are small-scale mines in Canada, Australia, even in the United States of America. And that's why when I spoke the other time, I said that we're contacting some of them so that our Small-Scale Miners Association could be sent to go and see that you can do this in a much better way than we're currently doing. Happily, we've trained a lot of geologists, we've trained a lot of mining experts. University of Mines and Technology has trained so many of our young people who have the technology and the ability to do so. And so the intention is to attach these graduates of UMAT to the district mining organizations, and they would help the district mining organizations to go and inspect the small-scale mining industries and make sure that they're doing the right thing. Normally what you do is, before you start, you must dig what they call a tailings dam to contain any water that you use to wash the gold. And so all the gold that you wash must go into the tailings dam and is contained. And after you wash the gold and you finish mining, you're supposed to cover the pits, and then after that, there are chemicals that you can use to clean and detoxify the water. I'll come to that in a short while. But like I said, it's not an event, it's a process, but we will never give up. It's a long journey, but we'll continue to work on it. I like that somebody raised that, what are we doing to the kingpins? Because most of those 1,400 who have been arrested are young youth who are looking for something to be able to look after themselves. And we'll prosecute them, we'll imprison them. But those who run those operations are the ones that we must be arresting and imprisoning, not these little boys. And so we need to change our strategy. We can arrest the boys and all that. And I think that even if we send them, they should be given a leaner sentence by the judge, a slap on the wrist. But those who must be given, there's no slap on the wrist. What's the least sentence? 15 years. 5 to 15. Yeah, so we'll catch these boys and we'll feed them for 5 years. Look after them for 5 years and discharge them. But like I'm saying, maybe we can look rather for the kingpins and deal with them in a major way so that we are able to get something on this whole thing. With regards to toxification of the waters, like the EPA was saying, we've started some pilots. There are new chemicals that have come that allows you to treat water and take out the toxins and the heavy metals. There are new chemicals that have come. One of them is called dioxin. The people came and we sent them there. They took samples, they tested. We're waiting for them to bring the results back. But there are other ways of dealing with gold, that is processing gold, without using mercury and cyanide. There are different for instance, you have what they call vortex concentrators. You put the gravel in there, and it's a vortex, it's like a centrifuge, and all the heavy things sink to the bottom. And you're able to take out the water, and you see the gold lying at the bottom, and you don't need to use mercury and all that. There's carbon filter. There you can use carbon filters to filter the water in order to be able to take out any toxins that are in there. They call it activated carbon filtration. You have reverse osmosis that is capable of taking out heavy metals and others, from the water. So while we are fighting the menace, I'm also saying that we should uptake technology in order to protect our environment. So yes, let's fight the illegal mining, but at the same time, let's bring in the new technologies that allow us to be able to protect our environment. Now with the elephant in the room, state of emergency. Yes, I have the power to do it. But the president asks on the authority, not only on the authority, on the advice of the National Security Council. And as at now, this moment, the National Security Council believes that we can win the fight against Galamsey without a state of emergency. I want to assure you that the day they advise me otherwise, that, boss, now we need a state of emergency, I will not hesitate in declaring a state of emergency. But we do still think that we have the powers to be able to win this fight. And as we deploy more troops and we apply more resources to the fight, I'm sure that gradually we'll begin to see that we're winning the fight. So like I said, this is not going to be a one-stop dialogue. We're going to continue to update you. We need your support. We need your criticism. We need your advocacy. We need your pressure. Continue to put our feet to the fire, because that will encourage us to also continue to work harder. And so I want to personally assure you that as president, I will also continue to put pressure on my lands ministry and all the ministries that are involved in this to make sure that we're able to hand over to our children and our grandchildren an environment that our great-grandfathers handed over to us. They gave us a beautiful country with a lot of forests and trees and beautiful rivers. We should not hand over poisoned rivers and desecrated forests to our children and our grandchildren. And so we will continue to fight. I'm sure, I believe that we'll win the fight against Galamsey. And I want to thank you for the advocacy that you continue to do. We'll hold the next dialogue. NIMOS will go to work and continue. And once we chalk more successes, we'll be able to come and update you that this is what we're doing. We want to do it transparently. We have nothing to hide. I don't gain anything from Galamsey. I am not personally involved in Galamsey, and I have no interest in it continuing. And so you can be sure that we are all on the same side, and we'll continue to do this work. I thank you very much.